What's going on, y'all? It's Jay Smo Reviews here, man. Back at it again with another video. Been watching NBA playoffs heavy as of recently. Celtics fan here, and the beginning of a journey has started with a blowout victory, man. So happy about how that went. But I watched all the playoff games this weekend. If your team's in the playoff race, hope y'all are doing good too. Unless you are the 76ers, it sucks to suck. I hope y'all lose. I wish y'all the worst in life. Without further ado, though, we can get into the topic of the video today, which, with all these big events coming up, this weekend coming up is Bullpen and Riot, so we're going to cover that. Chrome's big events. I've noticed there's an early summer event that we haven't heard word of yet that I'm sure has got to be somewhere around the corner, and that is NOME, particularly NOME 14. It'll be in this situation. And it's one of the biggest events of the year, one of my personal favorite, if not just my straight up personal favorite event of the year from any league. NOME has a great track record of at least being a good event, if not a great event year to year. Plenty of big matchups out there. Some of the biggest matchups go down on this card. And, you know, I like to make it a little bit more realistic, so we're going to have 5 or 6 matchups here, trying to hone in on who I think needs a plate right now, some of the big matches that would be best to book right now, and all the things that go into a card of this magnitude. So, without further ado, let's start from the bottom of my projected card. So, starting at the bottom of the card, a battle that I've been asked for, I'm going to keep asking for until I do see it happen. Had it on a few book'ems, a few wish lists. I think it's just a great, good style clash to fill out at the beginning of the card. Could be an opener, really could not be either. And that is Fonz versus John Dodon. I've been like this, particularly now, I keep saying it. Fonz is ready to be a perennial NOME and SM guy. He's already kind of started working that direction anyways, but I want to see him versus top tiers year to year to year and just keep filling out that legacy and just moving forward, used as a top tier. John's a matchup that these two have talked some shit against each other. Like I said, not headline this or that, but John and Fonz are more than good enough names to make it on NOME, and for me, the style clash is what makes this something I really want to see here. Fonz versus that tactician, and John for most of his career has done really good against punchers as well, right? So it's a unique challenge for you. More than respectable name with John who's been on tons of NOMEs and SM, so he'll carry. If somehow, even though Fonz is clearly good enough brand wise to get on NOME and SM, because he has been, but John adds to that with a big brand of his own, and it's just the type of matchup that you would not be mad if this popped up on a NOME undercard, and that style clash makes it interesting because it could be a dramatic win in either direction depending on the approaches that night when you have a style that's so good against going against punching against one of the absolute best current punchers right now. So for me, Fonz and John, name-wise it checks off, style-wise it checks off, and I think quality-wise and used to both battlers, it could check off as one of the better battles. From there, another battle that I just think is good rec. It's not headliner rec, but you can't be mad at it if it's on the card, and that is Chef Trez versus Av. Now, this battle's a little funnier for me because have been asking for it. In 2024, at least, I've seen Av shoot at Trez a little bit, saying it's time to get that battle in, and with the way Trez has battled, similar but not the same to Fonz, I want to continue to see Trez versus top tier talent. Now, Trez has been around at a higher level longer, if that makes sense, because Fonz and Trez have both been around for a minute. But Trez has faced more top tier competition. He's gotten more of those opportunities, so he's limited, I think, in the top tiers he can get in big spots like this. And I think Av is just one of those that fits on NOME. There's still big matches for Trez, like a Hollow Dodon, right? But you might want to see that, in my opinion, on a bigger card. Maybe you see it on SM. There's not a lot of bigger cards than NOME. But for me, I just think Av and Trez fits here in terms of the fact, bar for bar, it's just another good quality battle you'll get up there. Probably more on the punch fest side. But Av can do some things explosively with the crowd, more on the performance side, probably underrated for that. While Chef Trez is rebuttaling, getting the crowd going, keeping that momentum. So when you have two guys that are pros, always consistent for 3 rounds, it adds to, if you put them against each other, you just have a good bar-for-bar quality battle, and what you want is non-misses. You need some big battles as we get here later in the card, some namesake, some grudge matches to really sell this card, but those first 2 or 3 battles, while they still need to be good on paper, like a Fonz and John and Trez and Av is, they just need to be good. They just need to not be misses. So that's why I think Trez and Av would fit here. Only big issue for that, I've seen Av popped up on the Trenches card. I've talked about it a little bit when I did the Chrome predictions. I don't know where that will leave him with URL, being that it's one thing to go and battle on Chrome. It's another thing to go and battle on the Trenches. So, you know, unless you're a big brand like a Geechee, even though Geechee didn't battle in the Trenches, right? But unless you're one of those humongous brands, you know, Av already had problems going when he went to Chrome to battle official. That led to some blowback with URL. So I don't know. We'll see if this is anywhere it could even be in the cards, but I think Chef versus Av is a battle more than worthy of NOME. So next matchup, going more towards the ladies here, getting our little dose of female battles on this card. And this is kind of an either-or type of option, right? Because I couldn't settle. Either Jazz the Rapper versus Miss Hustle, the rematch, which is I asked for in every card, man. Blockbuster, humongous, not just big to the current hierarchy of female battle rap, but the all-time hierarchy. Could even be a headline option, right? But for all those reasons, it's such a big battle and it hasn't went down yet. It's been tough to book the stories from two different sides. So if that doesn't go down, because I like to go for realism, I wouldn't be mad at seeing Jazz the Rapper versus Coffee Brown in this card. Now, one time I actually thought this would be more of like a Chrome battle. Just something I thought Chrome would go full court press for it. I don't really know why, to be honest with you. I don't even think it's been like heavily rumored like that. But it just made sense to me. However, Chrome just announced their card. I see Coffee versus a J name, but it's Jade and not Jazz, right? So I'm figuring that's still out there in the air, and I think it's also worthy of a known battle. It's not Hustle and Jazz in terms of importance, but Coffee is still of that top 3-8 shit on the Wody. She ended up finishing above Jazz, right? So they've talked trash as well going into last year, so it's a battle that is going to happen one way or another. And I just think it makes sense. I think it is known worthy. I think it's important for Coffee, who's earned it. Jazz is open to the battle. It's one of the best opponents that she can still take, especially an original opponent, not even a rematch, although I love the Hustle rematch. But for all those reasons, just naming why it makes sense and why I think it could fit on the NOME and gives the ladies representation. But the next battle after that is one that I don't even got to talk about that long because it should have been booked. We should not be sitting here at a possible NOME 14 talking about it getting booked. That is Tay-Rock versus Jerry West. The use of Jerry West's post-DNA battle is something that's made people sad. It's made him upset. It's made him say things like, why? And I including Jerry West himself, man. You could see in his interviews, he's talked about being more confused and really frustrated. He said he's been pissed off that post-DNA, you're a 90-10 underdog. He's terrible in the face-off, too, by the way. So he already wasn't helping himself by any means going into that. And then with everything stacked against you on Summer Madness, you 30 DNA, you make the most of the moment, and then you get benched. And then we just don't see you. Or I guess saying getting benched would be the wrong term, but we just didn't see him again right afterwards. It makes sense, and the good thing is that even after Jerry getting sad after that, right? Even after him not capitalizing off that opportunity, you give him Tay-Rock on NOME, and if he's as consistent as he's been and as he was before, if he makes the most of this moment is great once again, he's got all that momentum right back, and if you have an actual plan to capitalize off of, it's like there was no harm, no foul, even though there was a little bit of harm, because I don't know how he didn't get booked post-DNA, but him versus Rock, people were saying it should have happened on Homecoming. You throw it on NOME, and he does his thing. You're still all in the good. Battle has to happen. No questions about it, in my opinion. And that leaves you with the final two battles of the card, so you're going to have your main event, and then your co-main event. Here's what I'm going to start with first. And this one, some people are not going to be happy because this person was forgetting rhymes recently, but I think they'd have to make an appearance on a card of this magnitude, and that is New Jersey Twerk versus Goods. I know he choked twice. He choked every round versus T-Top. He made volume. He helped make volume one of the worst cards ever, worst volume card of all time. I know we're not happy with him right now, but pre that battle, we're talking about a 2023 where for many he was the best battle rapper alive. For me, he was number 2, but it was like a preference in the conversation. His consistency since the end of 2022 has been pretty unmatched up until you get to the T-Top battle, and that was gross. Yuck. Ew. I get it, and he was terrible in it, but when you talk about a talent of this level, the big cards he's played, the role he's playing on URL, and being on each big card when URL needs star power, I don't see how logistically you can end up leaving him off, right? Especially if it's a big stage event, which is kind of what I was envisioning with all this, is NOME, right? So especially we're talking big stage event, and with the Goods matchup, I know that some people on the flip side will be like, well, it's a huge mismatch versus Goods. Well, it's like him versus Hollow, where some people believe that was a mismatch too, but he's getting the legend names. It's like when Geechee was top dog. It's like when Rock's top dog. He's getting those legend names and filling it out. So if there's a legend name available, let alone one like Goods, he's actually throwing some shots at and talk some shit to over time, the matchup's going to make sense and happen. And if it's on a big stage, definitely not an advantage Goods by any means there. I think some people kind of pitched it for a small room kind of idea when I hear it mentioned. But it is a big name that Twerk hasn't battled. It is a name that he's had some back and forth with. And style-wise, Goods does have the ability to maybe diffuse some heavy punching like that. kind of emphasize real talk and some different things that historically give punching some problems. But we know that New Jersey Twerk right now is the best performer in battle rap, it seems like, in terms of just current and active. And there's a good chance that he would smoke goods up if it's on a stage. But it's big time. It's like Hollow and Twerk, where it just makes sense. Big time for a card. Big matchup. You're not going to be mad at goods on a NOME by any means, right? So for all these reasons, I think it fits in as a very good co-main event for NOME. And that leaves you with the main event, and it's a battle that we've known is signed, we've gotten different looks at, but no date. And I think this would be the perfect time to make the date for it, and that is Loaded Lux versus Rum Nitty. Make it a NOME headliner. You know what I mean? It's a big battle. It's a Loaded Lux battle. There's no question that it can end up being a NOME headliner. I think Rum Nitty, actually, after his Mike Masters Alliance battle versus Quest McCody, they did some interviews afterwards, and Nitty said that they're talking about him and Lux being targeted for June. So I don't know if that would be like a Lux Nitty card by itself, if it would go on NOME. I mean, Nitty has headlined NOME quite a few times, as well as Loaded Lux. I actually think if they were the NOME headliner, statistically speaking, I think that they would both enter the #1 chat for the most NOME headliners of all time. I could be wrong, but I think that they at least tie, or they're in that conversation, take the lead. Maybe, I don't know, but I know it's like somewhere, some historical fact that it would be each of their third or fourth NOME headliner. But it just makes sense. Obviously, you would think would end up being more big stage if it's the headliner for NOME, which some people were very against. And I get it, but people got to make money, man, and it's a Loaded Lux battle. So at the end of the day, if it ends up on a big stage, if that's logistically how it has to go down to make up for the money you got to put into the battle, that's the name of the business, and I'm still happy to see the battle either way. But I think Loaded Lux and Rum Nitty, when we're talking NOME headliners, is something that definitely packs the punch that's necessary, and surrounded with things like a Tay-Rock versus Jerry, a Twerk versus Goods, even, like I said, early battles like Fonz versus John, Chef Trez versus Av. You throw the ladies in with like a Jazz Coffee, Jazz Hustle rematch, and now you're seeing that every battle fills out. Each one fills a specific need. Either it's bar for bar or top tiers, style clashing wise. A big all-time pen matchup with Lux and Nitty. Twerk seeing a legend. Jerry getting his big performance opportunity versus Rock. You see each battle serves a purpose to everyone climbing up their legacy. Each battle has stakes, so it feels important when you're watching it. And that is how you build a NOME card, with high-stakes matchups that each one that happens changes someone's current trajectory, changes the way that you can view someone's legacy. It's our equivalent to battle rap playoffs, and I think this is a very good draft that would make people happy if it was the NOME card. But that is my full thoughts here for my NOME 14 wishlist video, man. Just giving my perspective. I always like throwing the matchups out there. That's why we do the book'ems. That's why we do these. And until this weekend, it's looking like we're going to have some recaps on the way to do. You got to throw these hypothetical things out here and start a little bit of conversation. But I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. What do you think of these matchups in particular that I said? Which ones do you like? Which ones do you not like? And is there any that you feel like are missing? Any names? I mean, when I'm thinking of all these, I'm also thinking of names that I didn't put on here, like a Real Sick, right? Like a T-Top. I mean, you figure with the ladies, one of those, if you pick one matchup by nature, you got to kind of push one of those three opponents off of the card or out of it. So there's a few different big names out here, and if there's other matchups that you think would fit the card down, fit the card, please put it in the comments down below. Love to go back and forth, because like I said, this is my favorite event series, and I do like the idea of what can be on it. And then hopefully somewhere in the soon future, while all these big events are going down, maybe that little nitty Easter egg about June could be signaling towards something, and maybe we can be getting some NOME news relatively soon here. But it's been Jay Small Reviews again, y'all. As usual, man, like, comment, subscribe. I'm gonna catch you on the next one, man. Peace.